Hello everybody, welcome back to New England Graveyard. This is Jason right here in Evergreen Cemetery here in Leominster, Massachusetts, and have I got a story for you. This is not a famous grave, but it's certainly an interesting one. I am here to tell you the story of Joseph Palmer, a man who served his country, who fought in the War of 1812, came home and went to jail because he wore a beard. This thing, yeah, right here. So let me tell you the story of James Palmer. He was a farmer from Knowtown, a village on the outskirts of Leominster. Palmer was a veteran of the War of 1812, but in 1830, Palmer was a successful Yankee farmer, but was by no means a typical one. Possibly influenced in childhood by a bearded evangelist named Lorenzo Dow, Palmer took to wearing a long beard in the 1820s. Few men in the United States wore beards after about 1820, and Palmer was considered eccentric and slovenly. Nicknamed the Old Jew, he was regularly harassed and questioned about his insistence on wearing a beard. A prominent Fitchburg minister once accosted him. "Palmer, why don't you shave and not go around looking like the devil?" Palmer replied, "Mr. Trask, are you not mistaken in your comparison of personages? I have never seen a picture of the ruler of the sulphurous regions with much of a beard, but if I remember correctly, Jesus wore a beard not unlike mine." One day early in May 1830, 4 men armed with scissors and razors attacked Palmer outside a Fitchburg hotel and attempted to shave him. Palmer successfully fended off his attackers. He was even able to use his jackknife to wound the legs of 2 of his assailants. Charged with unprovoked assault, Palmer was arraigned, and a few days later before Judge David Brigham, and fined. Palmer refused to pay the $10 fine, nearly $40 in court fees, and a $700 bond that resulted in his conviction for the crime of defending himself. Palmer was thrown into the Worcester County Jail and kept there for more than a year for refusing to pay the fine. Palmer kept a detailed journal of his 15 months in the jail. The original is preserved in the archives at the Fruitlands Museum. His prison diary records the words and actions of his often sadistic jailers, the experience of his fellow prisoners, and his own steadfastness in resisting the efforts of the state and society to break him of his unconventional habits and opinions. Palmer's term in jail was extremely unpleasant at times. He was dangerously sick during his first few weeks behind bars. Later, he was beaten several times by the jailers, nearly starved for days at a time, placed in solitary confinement for several months, and physically threatened by other prisoners who tried to cut off his beard. But Palmer made life nearly as difficult for the officials who were keeping him in jail as they made it for him. To Calvin Willard, sheriff of the Worcester County, he sent a constant stream of letters complaining of the poor conditions in the jail. One time, to prove to the sheriff how little food he was receiving, he sent Willard a package containing every morsel of food the jailers had given him in one day. For such acts, his jail keepers, especially Horsey Bellows and Dorrance Wilder, treated Palmer even worse. On September 22, 1830, after a little more than 4 months in prison, Palmer exploded in distress and fury at the treatment he and his fellow prisoners were receiving. He was punished for his outburst by spending the next 3 months in solitary confinement. Throughout his imprisonment, Palmer insisted that he was innocent and that to pay a fine, even only $10, would equate to admitting his own guilt. Palmer's case became something of an embarrassment to county authorities, who realized that his jail term was far exceeding his crime, and that they sent several committees to the jail to convince him to leave. They offered to waive the $700 bond if he would only pay the fine and court fees. Palmer told one of the committees, "If I ain't a safe person to have my liberty, I ought not to go out." and I am willing to stay in confinement till I am. It was not until David Brigham, the judge who had originally fined Palmer, visited Worcester Prison and begged Palmer to relent. Brigham also carried a letter from Palmer's mother, a woman well into her 80s, pleading with him to come home. On August 31st, 1831, after more than 15 months in prison, Palmer paid his fine and left the jail. Palmer publicized his case by writing letters from jail that were widely published after first appearing in the Worcester Spy. When he later visited Boston in 1840, crowds on the streets mocked him. Imprisonment reinforced Palmer's interest in political and religious reform. He was involved in prison reform and was an early abolitionist. In the early 1840s, he attended the Chardon Street Convention in Boston, which is where Palmer met such prominent figures as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Amos Branson Alcott, and William Lloyd Garrison. His acquaintance with Alcott led to his decision to join the Fruitlands experiment in 1843. Palmer joined the short-lived Fruitlands Commune in Harvard, Massachusetts, where he proved one of the more practical farmers. He bought the group's property when it dissolved as a social experiment. Emerson and Henry David Thoreau visited him there. Palmer briefly tried to establish a second communal enterprise, funding the Leominster and Harvard Benevolent Association with Charles Lane. He supported the abolition of slavery. Palmer died in 1873, by which time beards had become widely fashionable again. He's buried here in Evergreen Cemetery in Leominster, and his grave marker bears a bearded portrait of him with the inscription, "Persecuted for wearing the beard." So how do you like that? I know myself and several people would be in deep trouble right now if we were in the 1820s. So he is buried over here. This is his, I would believe, foot marker at this point, because he's very close to the road. And here's his wife, Nancy. And it looks like somebody wasn't picking up their doggy's poop. So let's take a look around the marker. Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy was his daughter. Or Nancy Holman. Maybe that was his wife. It just says Nancy on there. I apologize if I'm wrong. See, on the back, we have nothing. And on this side, here we go. Joseph Palmer died October 30th, 1873. 84 years, 5 months. Nancy Palmer, wife of Joseph Palmer, died July 25th, 1859 at 75. That's a long time for that time period. So let's take a look at where, if you so choose, to come to Leominster and to visit Mr. Palmer. He is right in the front of the cemetery. There's the street. Coming off of Route 2, it was just a left off the highway and a straight shot to the cemetery. So what did you think of that story? When I first found out about it, I knew I had to tell his story. I mean, come on, going to jail for having a beard? Oh, how times have changed. I wonder how the people of that time period would think about the fashion of today. They'd probably all have heart attacks and strokes. So that was the story, the life and times of James Palmer. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different, but I like doing things a little different. It's good to have a to tell a good story, a different story from time to time. So please like this video if you enjoyed it, share it, tell his story. Let's get it out there. And please subscribe for more. And I will see you all on the next edition of New England Graveyard. Until then, have a good one and be safe.